W legends Jerry Lynn and Mikey Whipwreck. Now, let's welcome your host, Mike Freland.
Welcome to another Tuesday night. This is Front Row Material. This is your place to be on Tuesday nights for all wrestling interviews. It is the main podcast. My name is Mike Freland, and as always, I am joined by my wonderful, beautiful, bald, I almost botched that, bald man. His name is?
The Ritt, and I can see 4 minutes later,
yeah,
you're still trying to butter me up. Is there something you want?
I'm not trying to butter you up. I just felt like we were having a moment. You told me before we started, you said, hey, I'm glad you're here tonight, just to kind of catch everybody up. You said, I'm glad you're here tonight, and you looked at me with a look in your eye. Might I go as far as saying there was a glint in your eye, and you were happy. It was kind of like the look Tiny Tim has in A Christmas Carol when he realizes he's not going to die and his legs are going to be okay. You had that look.
Wow.
Just saying.
That was just between us and our guest who was listening and laughing at us.
Yes.
And now you just told every listener.
Every listener. Yes, all of them. I like to be transparent as possible, even though physically I'm nowhere near being transparent.
No, you're obtuse.
Wow. Obtuse. Good vocab word. So let's go ahead and let's kind of get right into it here. This week we have a huge guest. She has been an international wrestling superstar for many, many years. She's competed on so many different platforms and been successful in all of them. She is an individual who is not only recognized and respected in the industry, but she's somebody who is gracious enough to spend some of her evening with us tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, international wrestling star Ivelisse.
Hello. Oh,
how are you?
Hey, I'm all right. How are you?
We are great.
Kind of scoot. No,
First thing,
the wrong way. There we go.
First thing we want to do is just thank you for taking some time to obviously carve out of your evening to go ahead and speak with us, and obviously share some stories about your wrestling career that so many people are going to be fascinated to hear about, and find out what's happening with you now and what's the next steps for you. So let's just kind of go into this right here. Started training at 15.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like a crazy person, but yeah.
So you start training at 15. I mean, most 15-year-olds, middle school is basically where they're at. But you right now at this point in time, you're at a whole different level. You're training for wrestling. So maybe I should take a step backwards even prior to 15. What started your love, your fascination with wrestling, and what led you up to, at the age of 15, deciding, you know what, it's time to start training?
It's because I've always been an athlete. Literally, like back in Puerto Rico, I would get myself into any sport I possibly could. I ran track and field. I did basketball, volleyball, even mixed like male and female basketball. Just pretty much almost any and every sport that I could get into. I was an athlete. So like that was kind of natural to me. But in terms of pro wrestling per se, my family was always like massive fans of pro wrestling, so they would always be watching wrestling, and my brother as well, which we were really close. And it like after like a long time of doing different sports, etc., and I've always been attracted to the entertainment business as well, whether it be singing, acting, anything that has to do with performance as well. So anyway, as an athlete, at a certain age, I just started watching wrestling differently than from a fan perspective. I just started watching, well, I could do that, and I could do that, and I could do that, maybe even better. And then it just kind of like started motivating me and just kind of pushing me into a different perspective of it. And then once it got to the point that I saw, like for the first time, me as a young female, I saw Trish and Lita actually like breaking barriers for gender, like being, main event, that was like the flip for me, like the switch for me. And I'm like, I want to do this. I want to be able to be in that position and break those barriers and contribute in that way for us women in a male dominated business. And, I've always loved mixed martial arts too. So it's just like a whole hearing of it all, at least in my perspective. And that was the beginning of it all.
So in Puerto Rico, obviously, wrestling is, like you said before, very well respected. It's something that is very popular to a large contingent of families. Here in the United States, it's a fan favorite, but obviously it's very more niche. So when it comes to that, obviously the Colognes are huge in Puerto Rico. When it comes to wrestling, you are almost kind of like a celebrity when you wrestle in Puerto Rico because you're so recognized. So talk a little bit about like the lineage when it comes to that of people who have wrestled in Puerto Rico and how that's carried over just as far as name recognition and how powerful that is.
Yeah. Thankfully, when I started when I first dove into pro wrestling per se, it was in the indies at first. Obviously, I didn't know anything. I just had to start from scratch. But thank God, I was able to get on to the TV version of wrestling, which is Colón and all that, rather quickly from beginning my training or whatnot. And like I've always been very like business minded, and just like politics has always been the last thing in my mind, always. Since the very beginning of wrestling, I've always been very like cerebral about everything, wanting to learn everything, every single detail about how everything works, about psychology, about techniques, about moves, everything, like for it to be done at perfection, just everything. And everything that has to do but politics has always been like my obsession. So I'm able to kind of progress pretty quickly. And I was able to while I was there. And then from that time frame, like I was one of the first that like kind of went on that journey to leave Puerto Rico into the United States and kind of start from scratch all over. And again, thankfully, I was able to quickly get onto that chance with Tough Enough, this show of Tough Enough. And just kind of like trying to getting out of focus here. Yes, so yes, Tough Enough, and just kind of keep building myself from there, literally like being one of those first stars to go from ground zero from the island all the way to whatever I could possibly become in the US. And I think that massive contributed to that is, like I said, always having the mindset that I had that had nothing to do with politics, and just had to do with trying to be as wise as possible with everything I did or didn't do, and to develop myself as a product and as a talent in every way, shape, or form helped me be able to achieve that.
So when you left Puerto Rico,
others, because I've been told from them, like for an example, Black Rose or La Rosa Negra, she also has told me that, and like stuff like that. There's been others after that, they were kind of inspired by that bold move.
Well, I mean, it takes a lot of people. It takes one person, obviously, to set the trail or set the pace for everybody else to start to follow that. And you find that a lot of successful people are the ones who take the initiative and say, you know what, I'm going to do this and I'm going to be successful at it. And they don't take no for an answer. And I find that most people who do that end up achieving a lot of their goals. So just to kind of pick up the story. So obviously you leave Puerto Rico, you come to the United States, and you stop off in Chicago. And obviously you spent some time in the Chicagoland area. Talk a little bit about Steve Boz and what role that he played in as far as, kind of help developing and in that kind of thing.
Yeah, well, like I said, I had to start from complete and utter scratch. So luckily he was there in that area that I landed in Chicago to kind of start all over, my life all over. Gracious enough to kind of, point us into the right direction, given his, knowledge or whatever of the area or of whatever. And it was an important propeller for me to begin and kind of explode anywhere in the US. Shortly after is again when I had the chance with Tough Enough, and from there it just kind of branched off and exploded to everywhere, in the US. And well, you know, WWE, I was able to move to away from Chicago. I hate the cold. Was able to be something a lot more like Puerto Rico, Tampa, and yeah, and everything's just been a crazy journey from there.
I'm kind of curious. Out of all the places in the United States, you know, you have California, Texas is another big wrestling, New York, as you mentioned, down in Florida. Why did you choose Chicago?
Well, it's the only place that I had anyone that I could like that could help me start my life over. I had family in Chicago from my father's side, and technically, I technically didn't really have much. I just like my grandmother told me that I could stay with her, even though technically I wasn't fully allowed. But she kind of like she stretched as much as she could, like my visit that I could stay with her, and I was like, all right, I'll take any chance, anything. Trust me, I'll do whatever I humanly possibly can to like as quick as possible move up and just like do my own thing or find a way. I'll find a way. So it was like 2 weeks. I had a 2-week limit. So
Wow.
I went with nothing. Yeah, I went with nothing and I said, all right, 2 weeks it is. So I went, and as soon as I went, I literally walked around trying to find places to work at. And thankfully I found 2. They were right next to each other. And just walking and working, just that was the beginning of it all, walking, working, and just doing it all from scratch. Although Chicago winter, it's kind of quite a big, yeah. Doing all of that in Chicago winter, I will never forget that. That really preps you for survival of the fittest, especially somebody from the Caribbean and female walking around at night, taking buses and stuff.
Well, let me.
Gotta do what you gotta do.
This is absolutely true. So while you're in Chicago, obviously, not so fond of the weather. A lot of people aren't. I mean, I grew up in the Midwest, so it's winter about 9 months out of the year. Then we have a day of spring, and then it's 90 plus degrees the rest of the year. So it's really ridiculous. But were there any people or relationships that you actually started to forge with people early on in your wrestling career that you were really like, wow, you know what? I'm really glad I came across these people, or these people really helped me a lot?
Like beginning from Puerto Rico or
well,
still in
when you
Chicago?
came to the United States, when you came to the United States and you're in Chicago, anybody like when you're training, or was there any camaraderie that you made with some people that you really felt like was really instrumental when you first came over?
Well, honestly, like I said, it was a very short time before I got the opportunity to be part of Tough Enough. So technically it would be like, you know, Steve Boz, anybody like within that, you know, like Dreamwave Wrestling, like those, everyone that was there at that time, like had a good chunk of that propelling stage for me before I quickly was able to have that chance with the show of Tough Enough. And pretty shortly after the show of Tough Enough, I had the contract offer, and couldn't wait to come to Tampa. But yeah, I would say those from there, like Steve Boz from Dreamwave, Jay Respo, and because Mustafa Ali was part of that, that group at that time also. And then my brain is pretty scrambled from this crazy weekend, so I'm struggling a little bit with my memory.
No, you're fine.
Yeah.
So obviously you get the opportunity to go and do Tough Enough down in NXT, which would become that. So how did that actually all come about? Was it a situation where, you know, Steve saw something or somebody spoke to somebody and then they said, you know what, we got a girl who would be great for this? How did that process actually happen? And then boom, you're down to Florida.
But like, how did the process for Tough Enough or for, and you said FCW?
Well, first of all, for Tough Enough, how did that actually end up happening?
No, for Tough Enough, it was just like answering some casting ad that they had. Honestly, I forget what it was. It was some casting ad from something, and I responded to it, and I was one of like their favorites from like the get go, thankfully, and it just kind of helped me like solidify my position from the get go, according to the producer. He was the one who told me that. He's actually the same producer that was part of Lucha Underground as well. Eric Van Wagen, or however you pronounce it. But that was for Tough Enough. And then, well, Tough Enough, they saw me in Tough Enough. And I actually, after the like last like promoting thing that they did for Tough Enough, and once it was all over, I was just constantly calling every few weeks or so, kind of like calling to check. Oh, no, not yet, nothing yet. Oh, calling to check, blah, blah, until finally they're like, all right, we got this for you, blah, blah, blah. And that was it. And I run up and down the stairs of happiness and new chapter in my life.
Wow.
That was for FCW, because it was FCW at that time still.
Right. So for everybody who may or may not be familiar, obviously NXT, the precursor to NXT was FCW, which was Florida Championship Wrestling. So you obviously get an opportunity to go to FCW. What was FCW like when you originally got there? Who was running? Who did you initially meet when you went down there? And how would you describe your experience and your opportunities down there?
It was a really small facility, and it was a little hard because I didn't really have a lot of help, at least at that time, like to settle. It was just like, hey, here's this money, and settle and let us know when you're ready and start. So me not really knowing anything at all, no family, no nothing from Tampa. I just kind of like, I did my best, and but I still hadn't even managed to secure a driver's license at that time. So I just kind of all right, I'm ready. Like as soon as I was able to get a place to live, I was like, all right, I'm ready. Let's just go. I'm ready. I didn't want to waste any time, and I didn't know if that would be considered like a bad thing or whatever. And I was already kind of aware of how politics were very ridiculously like walking on eggshells, any little thing, any little this. I was like, all right, I'm ready. Let's go. So I kind of had to carpool a lot, at least at first. And then it was a small facility. Dr. Tom Pritchard, he was the one at that time that was running it, which he was awesome. He was always awesome to me. I don't know. And shortly after that was when Paige arrived. And we kind of clicked very quickly because she had an independent scene background, as I did, one of the few that had when we were there, first got there. So we kind of clicked on that. And then it was a really eye-opening experience for me in a lot of different ways. I tried to learn as much as I could, but obviously politics has always been my Achilles heel in terms of me as a whole in my whole career. So that's the one that I was learning the most and the quickest. But when it really took a big hit for me was when Bill DeMott was placed, when there was that switch from Tom Pritchard. That switch happened, that Bill DeMott was put as head of the facility. That's when I knew my days were counted. So I was doing everything possible to try to stay afloat any way I could possibly humanly figure out. But my days were counted, and it was very evident to everybody.
The less we say about Bill DeMott, obviously, the better, because when it comes to the two people between he and Dr. Tom, there's so much respect and love and admiration for Dr. Tom, for not only what he brings to training, but just the person he is. Can you tell me a little bit about what's it like, when you were with Dr. Tom, and just kind of give us any examples? Was there any advice or any conversations you had, or?
I don't know. I just like the thing that sticks out to me the most is just how different he was from, first of all, Bill DeMar. I mean, that's a whole nother level of I don't even know what the word would quite describe it.
I don't think
But,
many of us know what the word is, to be honest.
Yes. But just I felt so comfortable always with him, and I'm just genuinely very, very grateful for that time frame. No matter how short it was, like I'm thankful. More importantly, on how well he treated me, like as a person, regardless. Like because I was a female at that time. Still, females weren't really, or at least viewed or respected. It was still in that transition, very, very, very far behind on that transition. And still, regardless, I still was always treated very well by him. So that to me means more than anything else. That's the biggest thing that I take away from my experience with him.
Ivelisse, were you there when Sarah Amato was there and came in? Sarah Del Rey.
Actually, she actually got hired right after I was let go.
Oh, so I was gonna say because it seemed to me like the women, like I don't know what the training was down there, but it seemed to me like the women product became a lot better once she came in and worked hands on with the women more. I just didn't know if your paths had crossed at all.
No, it was I was let go right before she got hired. Right before she came in.
So, Florida Championship Wrestling, you have your run there, and then obviously that kind of turns into WWE rebrands it, and here we have NXT. Yeah. So NXT, the next big thing, NXT. A lot of people say it was an abbreviation for next, meaning the next generation of superstars that are going to be coming up. It was, in the beginning, you had, Nexus, and you had all of these things. You had Wade Barrett, and there's so many different people that had come through there on the male side. What was it like when you obviously started in NXT, when NXT actually started? Because I feel like there was a really good transition for you into that. Can you kind of elaborate a little bit more about that?
I was actually excited because, again, it was like a big upgrade from where we were at in Tampa in many different ways. And I was excited, and it felt like they may have had a good direction for me at that time. I mean, they had me and Paige start off the kickoff of NXT, like that rebrand. So I was excited. I was happy. I was like, please, yes, let's go. I'm ready. Let's do this. And they even had me go over, which I was like, this can't be real. This is completely and utterly surreal. Especially because, again, I don't do politics. So I must have earned this, through whatever I've done, because I don't do politics. So I was very and excited and, and proud at that moment. But the thing is, DeMont already had a lot of things, secretly stacking up against me in a negative way. And literally, I only had 2 other matches after that one with Paige, which was with Tamina and Natalia. And we were also working on a repackaging, because they were also for that entire transition, they were trying to repackage as many people as they could. They had repackaged Shaw with the Ultra Diva thing. They were trying, when it was going to transition to NXT, they were already planning to repackage almost everybody. So with me, my repackaging was going to be to be the first female with an MMA background and introducing MMA into the character as part of the anti-divas. But that was my way of being an anti-diva, introducing the MMA aspect of my background. And through all of that short time, it it starts off really great and real quickly it just disappears, and you're just like, what just happened? And it's always politics, and I'm always just left like, what did I do? What did I breathed wrong. I breathed on the wrong spot at the wrong time, and like, or just the craziest things that I swear, because look, if you think about it, how does Ivelisse, kick off NXT, with Paige and going over and clean and this and that. And honestly, also too, that match was supposed to be a squash. They wanted me to squash Paige the entire time. Like, no, I can't do that. I don't want that.
Wow.
I didn't. I purposely didn't do it because I didn't feel right doing that to her. First of all, we were close and type of a thing, and I don't even like squashes. Always when they ask me to squash talent, or even in AEW, like, okay, you got 5 minutes. I'm like, 5 minutes, okay. I'm gonna find a way to make this the most competitive 5 minutes. Like, regardless, like, I don't care about like being a name. Like, I just wanted to feel like this crazy fight always, and like so anyway, let me not get too bad off track. Like how does it go on that, right? And then even going against Natalia and beating Natalia as well, right? So I was so excited, like from those two first like beginnings, like, yes, thank you Jesus. But then there's negative stuff that I don't even know that's going on, in a politics sense. So then by the time it all catches up to me, and by the time that the Natalia thing happened, and we worked great, we had great chemistry, they put me over, I was like ecstatic, I was just like on cloud 9. And then and also was set to film this repackaging thing for the MMA thing, to add the MMA thing to my career, all of these good things, and then out of nowhere, boom, all he calls me in for like the absolute dumbest thing about like some hair clips or whatever, and like saying how that's like so bad, it shows I don't follow direction or whatever, a clip that I could put on and take off any second, and then like with Tamina, they put me to lose, and then it all happened so quick. It was all like a quick thing, and then there were so many things that happened throughout a short period of time that were all negative. Not necessarily with the Tamina losing thing, but all coincidentally, the stopping of the repackaging, the ridiculous that didn't make any sense, like reprimanding of a hair clip, and just a bunch of other things that were just kind of like all stacked up. And then I had called HR because I was just like exhausted dealing with the whole thing with Demont, even other things that I never mentioned that were not very like along the lines of all the things that came out along those lines, that I hadn't mentioned to HR. I was just living through it and trying to like push through it or whatever. And so I just caved, and I called HR, and I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to do, so I called HR, and I was just kind of letting them know how I felt, and I was literally like crying for like 30 minutes straight, trying to like make sense of it. And shortly after that is when I received the call to like let me go, telling me I'm not what they want in a diva.
So let me ask you this question. So kind of a twofold thing, but you had mentioned repackaging, and it seems like you mentioned at the time they were going through a lot of different repackaging of different stars, obviously giving them a different direction they were going in, and they were going to repackage you. Did you feel like that they were very, more television based than wrestling focused, or would you say it was just as much wrestling as it was the productional side of it, or did you feel it was a little one way or the other?
Are you talking about NXT?
Yeah.
I don't know. It was such a massive transition that it's really hard to say. And I was just going through so much, like personally at that time, that I can't really like, kind of like put two and two together in that sense, like as a whole. But like from the women's perspective, from what I saw from the women's perspective, it was kind of a combo of both. it was kind of a combo of both. I guess I had no idea that they were gonna hire Sarah Del Rey at that time yet. I was actually one of the ones that was helping a lot with the training of the girls. Like, even there were a couple of times, like, before, of course, leading up to me being letting go, which made it even more confusing for me. Well, I was even helping them and taking over the class to help Norman Smiley and everything like that. And also too, they told me that even though all that, I was the lowest paid of all of them, and that was a whole nother conversation thing too. Regardless, but anyway, these are all things that I've never even talked about. I avoid interviews because I have so many things, like traumatic things that I've gone through, just to like not let it come out. I literally kind of just avoid interviews just because, like, it's so much trauma. If I open a little window or a little gate, they all just keep coming out. But before I like get off track, we were talking about
just as if they were more focused on more production and more theatrics as opposed to the wrestling side of it. Or do you feel like they were giving the women just as much direction with actually in ring and giving them feedback?
There was at least for the women, because again, I can't really think back to like think of it as a whole, but at least from the women's perspective or the women's side, they did have that intent to give more focus on that wrestling aspect. I did feel that at that time, more intent on the wrestling aspect, because they always were focused on the theatrics of it all and everything. But clearly, they had that intent to improve the wrestling side of the females, because when I left, they went, they were going in that direction of getting Sarah Del Rey and all these other things that progressed in NXT, especially with the women and stuff like that. So clearly they did have intent to progress. I really had hoped that I was going to be part of it, but I didn't. So I just took that elsewhere, and it was in the Indies.
You had mentioned obviously getting to know Paige and obviously getting to know Natalia. Any interactions with them that were outside of wrestling that were kind of fun, getting to know them as individuals? Maybe them talking to you or anything like that?
I didn't get to interact a whole lot with Natalia because she was in the main roster at that time. But yeah, me and Paige got pretty close. She's really funny. We actually had a lot of funny stuff that we called shenanigans. We were trying to pitch that for a TV show, which was a bunch of prank stuff prank wars that we were doing on each other and stuff like that. So yeah, we really bonded on the humor that nobody knows I have. Everyone always sees me as very serious, which is I really am, but like that's when I'm at work. If I'm not at work, I'm actually a big
I'm curious, what is the most shocking prank that you pulled on Paige?
Oh man, I don't remember. Okay.
Nah, when everyone says they don't remember, they really do.
Maybe ask her. I don't know. Maybe I don't remember if it was me that hit her with a bread, like a loaf of bread thing, or if it was that she hit me. I don't remember. We did a bunch that it was like hitting a loaf of bread. There was one that we were using the shaving cream crap. There was the one where you jump on the like inflatable bed thing and the other one fly. There was one time we like stuffed ourselves into like these massive pants and we were acting like we were one person. I don't know. Yeah.
How did they buy that?
Where those videos ended up. That's so long ago. It's almost like a decade ago.
Man, why didn't WWE pick that up? That would have been funny.
Yeah. I would have hoped. There was like, yeah, my dreams were crushed.
It's interesting how, in most cases in wrestling, they want you to be a larger version of yourself, right? They want you to be, we often hear the phrase yourself on the volume 10, right? So you mentioned, obviously, you're not this brooding, serious, tough girl like we always see, right? It's like even guys, when I watch, I'm not going near her.
Well, I am, but when I'm like, I am when I'm working, but when I'm not, I don't know. It's like I switch it. If we're at work, then I'm like military style, like that's me. But if once work is done, then okay, then here's the funny, like wild, like side of me that very, very few people get to see because all I do is work.
Hey, if you want to hit Freeland with a loaf of bread, I'll let you hit.
I love bread. I mean, I love all pastries. I love all type of yeast-based products.
But you mentioned that, like, out of all, like, because at that time I was always pitching like any non-diva type of scenario that I could present. I pitched all of them, and the only one that they accepted was the MMA one, because I was always pitching the one that I've done for years, like in the indies, the one that's me, like who I really am, and they hated it. They're like, "You're too much like a boy." Like,
wow, you're too much like a boy.
Fast forward years later, Mia can do it. I can't.
Oh my God!
I was too ahead of the curve.
You were ahead of your time. You were too early.
Yeah.
Heck, they went and brought in.
Okay, I can't do it here. I'll do it elsewhere. And I did it in the Indies.
I was gonna say that they brought in Ronda Rousey, but you couldn't do it. 10 years prior.
Let me ask you this question. Obviously, we always hear, and you kind of alluded to it just a moment ago, about pranks and whatnot. Do the girls rib just as much as the guys rib each other? Are there pranks? You had mentioned shaving cream and some other kind of stuff. Do you guys go at each other as much as the dudes do, or do you think, no, we do it subtly and few and far between?
Like what you just last said. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like
at least not that I know of. At least not to me. I would only do that like if I am able to get to that level of trust with that person.
Yes.
Definitely not at work.
I
Like
agree.
we did this outside of work.
Right.
Like.
Something our listeners are always interested in. Any good road stories? Anybody that you traveled with that was just like, if I'm traveling, this person's in the car. We're going to these restaurants. These are our stopping spots. Anything like that? Any fun people that you would travel with that was like absolutely your buddy?
I always feel bad when I get that question because I don't really have many road because like throughout my career, the only times that I did like road trips, like, how is like the norm in the independent scene. The only times I did road trips like that, like traveling with other wrestlers and stuff like that was like in Chicago, I would say. Well, like, yeah, when I started off in Puerto Rico. But like, I don't know. I don't really like remember any like crazy anything like super wild. I mean, one time that I got stopped cops and they were like being really like jerks or whatever, but I don't know. I feel really bad because I don't really have any like stories that like stick out to me like that bad, like to like be like, oh, and tell a story. I feel bad.
Any moments where people have recognized you out in public and you've either said, yes, that is me, or depending on the situation, oh, I get that a lot, but I'm not her.
Yeah, but I just like, because like I've always had like shoot jobs on the side. That's the only times where I'm just like, yeah, that's me, but I don't really want to like, let's just kind of, can I just cash you out right here? Like, can I take a picture with it? Like, no, I can't. I'm working right now. Like, what you doing, dude? Like, don't draw any more attention. And then the boss is over there looking. I'm like, Those are the
Now,
only times that are like kind of negative. Outside of that, I'm like, hey, yes, that's me. What's up?
the shoot job, does the bosses, are they tipped off on what is your other gig that people may come in and recognize
They
you, or do you
always
kind of
know. Like,
okay?
yeah, all the jobs that I've ever had, I always know like my pro wrestling thing, because they have to know, because I've never really had like a full-time job. They're always just like extra, like just part-time jobs. Like throughout my career, I've always just had part-times. Um, so they have to know, so they can understand why I'm not available at their beck and call all the time, or can cover anytime someone like that. These specifically have to be off, and like just it's very set, and ahead of time as well. At least I was always very good with that. Like, oh, don't worry, I'll let you know with at least the very least a month.
Or somehow you got the flu, or oh, I got a sinus infection. You got to really time that stuff out too if they you want to keep them in the dark.
Yeah, but I never did it though.
So
I would go to work like with like my nose, like I could barely talk or anything. It takes like I have to be literally dying for me to miss work.
So another stop off in your career obviously was Lucha Underground, and I actually was a big fan. I thought it had a great look to it. I thought the talent was really good on it. I really enjoyed the product. Were you surprised, obviously, that when things kind of ended, because it seemed like there was a lot of support as far as the fans were concerned. However, obviously, there's always two sides to every story as far as, hey, it wasn't working out. But I thought the stars were amazing in that company, and they performed amazingly. So my hat's off to you as well, because that was probably one of the most enjoyable wrestling shows I could ever remember watching.
Was I surprised? No, I wasn't surprised of what happened towards the end and how it disintegrated. Throughout my entire career, I've seen it so many times. This is why I absolutely and utterly hate with every single fiber of my soul politics, because the way I see it unfold from the very beginning all the way, every single time, no matter how small the company, no matter how big, it never ends. It always happens. I was incredibly hopeful in the beginning. I had came out of that traumatic experience with WWE, Bill DeMott, blah blah blah, but I recovered and and did everything to kind of try to take that experience and make the best out of it. And I solidified myself within the top of women's wrestling that following year. Given whatever cards I had dealt, I worked really hard for that. And after I had done that and solidified myself, amongst the top female wrestlers at that time, in the US, here comes this chance with Lucha Underground. And I was very, very skeptical, very like, I don't know. And then I finally said, okay, fine, and gave it a shot. And at first, it felt incredibly promising. It felt so good. They treated us very well. I'm very glad about that experience. They treated us very well. But remember, it started off very mostly Hollywood production people. That's how it started off. And I feel like that's a major reason why it started off so well. And as it all started growing and more pro wrestling personalities came in, and the usual pro wrestling pulling in every direction of politicking, etc., and just the snaking of it all and just everything, I feel like slowly it overtook it, and it just like all completely and utterly disintegrated. And to watch that unfold was really frustrating.
Mm-hmm.
Even more so when I was injured as it was happening. So when I came back from the injury for season 3 or so, I was praying to God that not too much had changed, not too much of crap politics had tainted it. But I had already kind of seen some stuff, and then here comes and then it just kind of went on a little question mark hiatus, and then I'm just like, oh please God, please let's hope that it just like keeps exploding, and then it's like, okay, season 4, and it was just like another like burst of hope came up, but then that's when after it all finished, there was no more. That was it. And there was no plans, nothing was being said, anything. And then they didn't want to let us go of our contracts either. So it was like a big frustrating thing. And I didn't know what to do. And thankfully, me actually saying something online, which people love to make whatever they want to make out of it, was what got us in touch with the person who got us out. It was me and it was a group. It was me, and Rosa was part of that group. I helped. She was part of it. I think it was Aerostar, the one now Escobar in NXT, and a few other ones that were part of it. And at least, thankfully, we were able to get released from it.
You had mentioned this before, and it seems like in wrestling, it's kind of a common thing where something goes really, really well, or a company is doing really, really well, and things are rolling, and then all of a sudden, it's like the rug gets pulled out from underneath you. Yeah,
because that's when everyone wants a piece of the cake. That's kind of like how AEW, like what I see with AEW. Starts good, you see all this potential, and then everyone gets on board. Everyone wants a piece of cake, and then you just see it get pulled in all these different directions, and then it just, yep.
Is there any? I'm sure there's a contingent of people and that as well, and you don't have to say them, but that are also kind of equally annoyed by that aspect. Here it is. It's pro wrestling. It's what I love. It's what I love to do. Yet on the flip side of it, it's the good side, bad side. I want the good, but I have to manage or tolerate or swallow some of this bad stuff. Do you ever feel like it gets to a point where it's like, the hell with it? Like, why do I continue to put myself through it when this type of thing continuously comes up? Have you ever thought about, you know what? I'm out.
Funny that you say that. Funny that you say that. That's actually something I've been thinking about a lot lately. In my mind, I actually kind of never really saw myself wrestle past 40. Just me. Everyone's different, to each their own. But to me, I never really saw myself wrestling full scale, active performer 40, past 40. That's it for me. That's but given everything that's happened and just everything in general, I just kind of see that happening a little sooner than that. At this point, after everything that I've seen, everything that I've been through, absolutely everything, I feel like if I can manage, nothing will take my passion away. Even if the day that I decide that I just will not wrestle no more, as an active performer, that passion's not going to go away. So I feel like I would still want to contribute, even if it's my knowledge, help, whatever, in any way, shape, or form. I still would want to contribute towards those goals that I had in improving women's wrestling and everything. So however that may be, after I'm not active no more, I will definitely want to push for. But if at this point, I feel like, okay, my actual now, after everything that I've seen, everything, me walking away with my mental sanity and my body, I feel like that will be the absolute biggest accomplishment for me, that I could be able to walk away from all that and have a normal life somehow. To me, that would be my biggest thing that I would want to take away from it. Because I cannot even begin to explain, and I don't even try to either, because I don't think anyone would ever really understand. So there's no point. Like you just said, there's no point. And I tried really hard. I tried really hard in AEW. God knows I tried so hard with the politics, and it never matters. No matter how hard, it never matters, because at the end of the day, I just refuse to do anything out of integrity to stay in the business. I no matter where I'm at, I'm gonna give the exact same amount of passion to what I do. So it is what it is. And the only difference is that in this world, I make a hell of a lot more money, and in this world, I make a hell of a lot less money. So whichever it is, as long as I can get out of there with my sanity, it well enough that I can lead a normal life after, then I'm good. To me, that's more important than anything else.
You've probably come across people, and once again, not any names, but you probably come across people who you've talked to them or you've looked at them, and you can tell that the business side of it has completely destroyed them. They go out, they wrestle, but unfortunately, from a mental and emotional standpoint, they've been in it so long that it's almost like they're so used to it. You know what I mean? Where it's like, this isn't healthy. But I think when you're able to look at it from with a different pair of eyes and you say, you know what, I'm in it for these reasons. I'm not in it for these reasons. And you're not going to change me for the way I feel about this. Have you ever tried to have conversations with anybody, that you've said, hey, look, you don't have to do this. You don't have to do this anymore. You might want to think about something different, or you may want to think about going somewhere else. Have you ever had any of those heart-to-hearts with any of the girls saying, you're getting beat up mentally here?
I haven't gotten to that yet because it's almost like it's something I've been experiencing myself. It's kind of obvious this year has been one of the craziest, most spiritually, I would say, challenging years. I would say for everybody in general, but like at least for me personally, like, it all started with the fire. I lost everything that I have worked so utterly hard for. And then right after the fire, everything, all that crap that had to do a lot with Thunder Rosa. I'm not going to sugarcoat that throughout in my AEW experience, like all adding up, and work, adding up. And then my personal life was also like in complete hell, like just everything. So many things that a lot of people don't know. And then on top of that, when I was let go, everything that happened while everything like on the exit, just everything. And also the online crap that was also a whole nother level of madness. Just all of it, just all stacking. And now is when, because I'm a really strong person, but I had recently gotten to the point where it just like, even with all the energy drinks that I had to take just to like keep going and keep pushing, and like even that wasn't really like no more motivation was coming in and whatever. And it's just like, okay, now I really feel exhausted. Like I know that before I would say I feel exhausted and I just take an energy drink and just keep going, but now it's just like that mental and emotional. It's that mental and emotional exhaustion that you can't do anything about that is hitting you. So that's what I've been going through recently that has led me to that like realization. And like at this point, I feel like if I can walk away, however that may be or whenever that may be, with my mental sanity, then I feel like I won. And outside of like what I contributed to women's wrestling, you know what I mean?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but the way I interpret this, it almost seems like with everything that you've experienced, everything you've gone through, you have in amidst of all this found peace. And I think you've also decided that, you know what, I'm going to,
or at least trying to.
Well, I mean, it sounds like you're getting there. I'm ready to turn the page. I'm ready to start a new chapter. And I know what's important to me, and I know what makes me happy and what's going to keep me happy long-term, not short. And I'm okay with that. And I think that is very admirable.
Anyone to destroy me.
So yeah. I give you complete credit for that, because that's a very difficult decision for people to come to. And if it's what is the best for you, then you know what? No one can tell you it's right, wrong, or indifferent, because what's best for you is best for you.
But we'll see. We'll see.
We've got something kind of, and I've no doubt whatever you decide to do, it's going to be great. And when you're ready to walk away, definitely would love to have you at least back again, because I feel like there's so many interesting things about women's wrestling I would love to get a chance to go down and talk with you about as well.
Yeah.
All right. The Ritsters got the question. It's
It's
Oh, jeez.
it's the podcast greatest question
It's
ever.
the greatest question ever. Okay.
Okay.
Here we go. Here's the big question.
Hot tub time machine.
Hot tub time machine. Here we go. Hot tub.
You can go back in the
Uh-oh.
time to any match in wrestling history.
History.
You can take somebody out of a match and putting you in the match. What match is it and why?
Oh.
So they're about to
Wait.
walk through the curtain, and you grab them by the shoulder and you say,
this is women's wrestling. This is
No.
whatever you want it to be.
This is just like Lucha Underground. We treat everybody equally. You want to wrestle a man?
That's a lot of brain power right there. That's a lot of brain power to think about. Oh man. Let me just. I would say
Ivelisse is going to tear the house down. Did you say Eddie?
Eddie Guerrero.
Oh,
Eddie Guerrero.
excellent answer.
Yes.
Excellent answer.
Yes.
I don't know if we ever asked you who was instrumental to you. Who was somebody that you really looked up to? Was there anybody in particular, or was there a couple of people that you really were like, I really gravitate towards these people. I really want to emulate myself in some way.
Yes. At that time, while I was watching, growing up watching wrestling, I would always kind of I would take away something from somebody. Like, I don't know, maybe the way this person hit the ropes, or maybe the way this one punched, or this one, I'd be like, I like how they do that. I like how they do that. I like to do that. But obviously Eddie Guerrero was a very influential one. Also Steve Austin was very influential for me. Like, when I was growing up watching as a fan, that he was the one at that time that captivated me, like, as a fan, watching as a fan. So I would say, at that time, definitely Eddie, definitely Austin. At that time, Lita for me was a big influence. Again, growing up watching, she was a big influence. Not only in like the way that she would wrestle very differently from the women, with the high flying, etc. But also because she was a big tomboy. And I've always been a tomboy, a big tomboy. And she wasn't afraid. She was not afraid to express her own self-identity, whether, it would look very differently from the other females, or look kind of tomboyish or whatever the hell. That was another thing that I really liked from her. So, as I said, there was always something in particular that inspired me from different people and stuff like that. But when it came to pure performance, it was Eddie. In terms of performance, wrestling, pure wrestling, in the ring, just everything, the entire package in terms of style of wrestling and just presentation of wrestling, etc., was definitely Eddie. And obviously the Latin aspect of it that touches me, obviously because I'm Latina, that massive part as well of him as a whole, also very influential. I would say those few would be the first ones that I would say. If you really think about it, I really am kind of a mixture of all I just mentioned. If you think about it.
All right. Wow. There's so many things. Like I said before earlier, I would love to get a chance to bring you back for a part 2. Get your thoughts and your opinions on women's wrestling and the styles and different people that you would love to mix it up with still in different promotions and so many things. But let's do this. Where can people find you? Where can people locate you? What is your Twitter handle, your Instagram handle, is it Facebook or is it Meta? I keep hearing conflicting things.
I don't use Facebook very much.
Good. I'm not a Facebook person either. So tell everybody all your details, where they can find you, where they can buy your merchandise. Pitch it now.
Yes, you can find me on Twitter. My handle is @Real Ivelisse. And that's Ivelisse. I know my name is weird. And on Twitter, that is all of my stuff, for merch. or whatnot, and like my Patreon page and stuff like that. And on Instagram, my handle is at Ivelisse Velez. And those are the two main social media platforms that I am active on.
Where are we going to be able to
That's it.
see you upcoming? What's some of the upcoming dates in the areas where people can buy their tickets to come and see you?
Yes. So Ladies Night Out. I'm actually that's actually the next one. Where I will be next, and that's at WrestleCade.
Nice.
And Chelsea Green. Yeah, me and Chelsea Green are gonna duke it out for the second round. Me and her have great chemistry, and I really look forward to this. We're gonna wrestle for the Ladies Night Out Championship, and I believe and hopeful that Ladies Night Out will be up and running by next year, which is right around the corner. And Shine also is going to be, has kind of started up to be up and running, like consistently, I mean. And the next show is December 12th, and it's going to be running consistently monthly in Clearwater, Florida, the OCC Roadhouse Nation. But you can watch it on wwnlive.com. New York weather really destroyed my throat. And then there's SWE Fury, but it's kind of on a little break hiatus at the moment. I'm not entirely 100% sure what the direction is, but obviously the direction is to come back at some point soon, hopefully. And that's kind of what's in store for now.
And we are so happy that we've gotten a chance to speak with you. It has been an awesome hour with you so far. I feel like we could go on for 2 or 3 more, but you know what? We will leave that for another time. Ivelisse, thank you so much again, and we will definitely talk with you down the road.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Talk to you soon. All right. Wow. That was cool. That was a lot of fun. I like it when people are real. And she definitely comes across that way. She's no nonsense, no bullshit. This is what I am. This is who I am. This is what I'm saying. Take it or leave it. And I think that's good, because I think a lot of times when you do interviews with people, you're not really sure exactly what you're going to get. But, you know, this is not going to make any sense, but I'm going to explain this. In the TV world, where I learned and I studied television and film in undergrad, there was a thing called a WYSIWYG. And what that means is what you see is what you get. And when you find people that are like that, that'll just be straight up with you and honest and tell you their honest feelings and experiences on things, I feel like things go really, really well. And she's talked about trials and tribulations, but I think it only makes you stronger. And towards the end of the interview, I really felt like she is kind of coming to peace with whatever she chooses to do with her wrestling career, because she's been in major promotions. She's wrestled all over the world, and whatever the next chapter may be. And if she decides to ride off into the sunset and write the next chapter of her life, so be it. I think she'll do really well in that as well.
Yeah, she's done pretty much everything. She's been everywhere, you know, wrestled some of the greatest talents that are out there. And like you said, she doesn't, you know, care what people think about her. She does what she wants. She wants to do something she loves. And once again, we always talk about the guest we get, the passion they have.
Yep.
For it. And when you love something, it's hard to let go. But, you know, when it's time to go, if you have a plan in place, it's easier that way.
Well, she also said something I thought was really interesting. Was she said, you know, I never really saw myself wanting to wrestle past the age of 40 as a full-time competitor. And I want to leave with my body intact. And I feel like that is a consensus that a lot of wrestlers nowadays are really starting to take into consideration. You know what? Maybe I should stop at a certain point. You know what? Maybe I do want to consider cutting my career maybe a little bit shorter, because I want to be able to walk and I want to be able to do things with my kids, or I want to be able to do different things to enjoy life and not be, unfortunately in a wheelchair or crippled or have had 17, 18, 19 surgeries, have neck and knee injuries. And if you have the ability to say, you know what, I'm out, all the power to her. She's been there, she's done it, and that's all you can really say.
Oh my goodness. Okay, I don't normally do this.
Yes.
Oh, she just left. Oh no, there she is. I'm bringing her back on because I gotta see this dog.
Hold on. Wait, whoa. This is her personal time.
Oh,
this is how we don't get part twos, Rick. This is how we don't get returns. You do stuff like this. You see a pair of sneakers.
Can I please bring you back on? Because I'm dying to see this puppy.
I don't believe this. This is why we don't have friends, Rick.
Oh, no.
It's kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy because literally at the exact same time that you were saying that I want to be able to walk and like not be in a wheelchair, that like I'm like, yes, and I'm picking up my dog like he's my baby. And I'm like, yes, I want to be able to be a normal person and enjoy life.
I know.
I already have so many.
I sit there and seen it, and I'm like, oh man.
Come here, Aries. Come here.
Look at this. We actually have a huge star who is willing to come back on. My gosh.
Freland, I never do this. I never. but I look at that dog.
It is a beautiful dog.
Aries, look at him.
Those eyes. Those eyes. Freland.
Look at him.
Hold on. Wait a minute here. Hold on. I got a new co-host. Freland. It's now the written Aries. So Aries, tell me what you think. Look at you, looking all studly. Oh man!
Hold on, I'm back. I got to jump in here. Is that part Alaskan Malamute?
He's a Siberian Husky.
Siberian Husky.
He's 89% Siberian Husky, and one little pit bull that got in there somewhere.
Wow.
Oh
wow.
Man. The
beautiful dog.
The eyes is what sell you.
Say something, Aries.
Say something. Speak.
Oh gosh, I tell you what. That's such a beautiful moment right there. An owner and their pet, something beautiful. I tell you what. Ivelisse, once again, thank you. Aries, thank you for making a guest appearance. That's double pay for double booking. That's the way that works.
Hey. Freeland's gonna pay you, but don't cash the checks. They might bounce.
We promise we will let you enjoy your evening.
Okay, thank you, Ivelisse. Again,
thank you so much.
Bye, Aries.
Once a dog lover, always a dog lover.
I never do that.
Yeah, well, here's the problem. I'm like, this was great. We're learning about women's wrestling. This is where hopefully she'll say yes to come back again, and then you're like, bring her back. And I'm like, oh God, oh no. This is, your mom says this is why we can't have good things. My wife says this is why we don't have other couples come over to the house, because you just did what I do. Oh my gosh. Anyway, beautiful dog, beautiful interview, wonderful, so much fun. We will have a part 2 with her again.
You might get replaced. I think that dog could up the viewership.
You got a dog fetish. That's all I can say. You got a dog fetish.
But honestly, I can see how her and Paige got along so well.
I think they have very similar personalities.
Yeah. And they're both huge dog lovers.
Yes. People bond over pets big time.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Anyway.
Well, hour 1 is over. She's probably thinking right now, she's like, I'm blocking his email.
Never again.
I'm blocking Ritt's email. We were never going to be on there again.
The bald guy, the fat guy, not happening.
She's gonna be like, new email, who this?
Uh-huh.
But well, we're gonna go to our first commercial break.
We're gonna take a commercial, as they say.
It's a good one.
Is this I'm too sexy? Please, I have to go to the bathroom.
No, but I will play it after this one because
yes. Oh, this one's very important. Yes,
because it's from a good personal, close friend of mine. Let's go.
The Love Alive charity is a nonprofit organization founded by professional wrestler, the Pope Elijah Burke, a college graduate and former Jacksonville sheriff officer who is a native to Jacksonville, Florida. The mission of the Love Alive charity is to give back to the community while aiming to improve the quality of life in Greater Jacksonville. Since 2012, the Love Alive charity has positively influenced many people by feeding the homeless, helping displaced families, and restoring faith in disadvantaged communities through humanitarian efforts.
Hello, I'm Elijah Burke. With as little of a donation of $1 or more, you can help make a difference in the lives of others. To donate and to learn more about the Love Alive charity, please visit theelijahexpress.com.